Good afternoon. Or I guess more accurately, good evening. It's almost 8 o'clock here on Saturday. I guess I should get back to actually doing some work, right? You know, like, it's been a couple days. Ugh, so I need to wake up. Wake up. Alright, so the first thing that we need to fix here is I believe I have broken the build. So let's go take a look at it real quick. Yeah, so what I'm pretty sure is happening is I've got this thing busted. Yeah, so there's a lot of code here basically that I believe we're including which should not be included in a non-editor plugin. So I think what I've got to do here is I've got to move all the editor specific code that I put into the runtime plugin, and I need to move that code out into the editor plugin. So, dang. Well, we have this editor utils stuff here basically, and it's got a whole bunch of like with editor and the rest there. Oh man. So I can do a couple things. I can do pound defines and everything, but the big problem, I believe, is just even including these headers and all this stuff. So it's this Unreal Ed public dependency module names. Yeah, it's in this like public edgraph nodes and all that stuff. So it's definitely this Unreal Ed dependency name, which is causing problems. So let's see. Let's see if there's anything I can really do about this without some ridiculous. So the big thing is we don't want the Unreal Ed public dependency module name in here. So, oh man, what are we gonna do? We want these functions to be available in the editor all the time, but that's gonna cause problems for stuff if so we need these available, but we want the actual body of this thing to exist inside of a different DLL? No, that can't possibly work. Because the issue is, I'd like to be able to call these functions. Damn. Well, I guess, what's the dependency chain look like? Like, we are not including the editor extension we're not including the editor plugin in the runtime plugin. The editor plugin includes the runtime plugin. That's the way the hierarchy goes. So for us to do any editor stuff in here, it's just not going to happen. Let's see if we can use any. Yeah, it says with editor only works for C++. So I'm looking up this problem online, of course, because I need to. Man, I closed my Twitch dashboard. No, why? So we need to make an editor module for our project? Well, I don't want to make another entire module just because I have 4 goddamn functions I want to call. You know, like, how dumb is that? Alright, well, why don't I just go ahead and remove this Unreal Ed dependency here, see what breaks, and see what we can move as a result of that. We would need all of this stuff moved. We can't include any of this if we want this to work, so... Man, that sucks. I mean, it really seems like what we have to do is hook up another plugin if we want this build to work properly. I'm trying to think if this is true or not. Oh, man. Yeah, it looks like it's the only thing that we have to do. So we have to have this depend on something, but only in the editor. So how do we even do that? We have this Dashkin editor target. Well, maybe we can execute some code in here. Maybe if there's like a type. So if type equals target type editor. Or something like that. What is even available? Does it basically be like if we're in the editor? I'm gonna have to check this out. Basically, the problem is we've got editor plugin stuff inside of our runtime plugin, and that's failing a lot of our shipping builds. Well, all of our shipping builds. Where is this thing? Let's see if we even compile this dependency. So target rules. Uncooked modular editor executable. Target build environment. Alright, here we go. Target rules is a data structure that contains the rules for defining a target. Extra module names. Okay, so what we've got is we've got like our build CS, and then we've got our build target CS. So I guess we can add target rules to our, maybe our plugin or something like that. Good morning, Karakan. It is evening here, but it's basically morning for me. Type isn't going to be available because this is inside of target info, and this is inside of like build info. So we need like a target. The target's supposed to go inside of, I guess it's inside of the same. Hello, Ishu. Trying to figure out exactly what I need for some of these editor extension stuff. Editor extensions runtime. So we've got all this stuff set up. What we need is the how does this thing actually build? Read only target rules. Alright, well. So I guess it's like target rules.inner.game or something like that. No, that's an enum for a target type. Alright, well let's see if we can actually use the type here. And we'll do it kind of like this. We'll see if we can even do this sort of thing inside of here. As I have no idea if this will work, and the documentation is not super great. Cannot be applied to operations of type module rules. Unreal build tool type. So I guess there's a module type and a build type. We'll see if we can specify specifically what we want to look at. So, okay, the type of type is module rules, module type. So let's see, where is this target rules.cs? So you have the Unreal build tool target type. So it might be this other target type instead. So if the type equals the editor there, let's see if that works. Operator cannot be applied to types of module rules, module type, and Unreal build tool. Right, so I need to look at this type. I need to find the Unreal build tool module rules, module type. Or I need to find the definition actually of read-only target rules. I guess I need to use the inner. Yeah, here we go. I think this will be it. Or maybe it's just target.type here. Well, it looks like it got through it, so those are the same types and that information is available. Well, we'll have to see if it actually... Well, supposedly it built. Well, let's swap it out to development client and see if it builds. And this could build... This could take a little while. Couldn't find parent type for generic texture factory named U factory in current module. Maybe it's just development. Alright, let's do development client. Alright, so generic texture factory should be It can't find the definition for it. Alright, well that makes sense. It's like we made this thing called a generic texture factory, and we told it existed, and then of course we took it away, so it's probably that. So what we need here is wherever this U generic texture factory is used, Dashkin editor utils.cpt. Well, it's completely contained inside of ifdefs. What the hell? Is literally this compile wrong? Yeah, so I guess it's this header file here actually includes all this crap, even if it's a non-editor. So we can't put this class here? What? Well, we have to put these in the headers so that they actually get parsed by the Unreal header tool. I mean, come on, what is this? This is just a bug in the header tool that compiles this thing regardless? Like, that should not be... Well, yeah, because UFactory doesn't exist. And this is a pretty awful hack if I throw this in here. We might have to do a large reorganization of our code base just to get what we want here. We might need another plugin, basically, which is just really annoying to have to deal with. See if we can get this thing to not complain so much. See if I can Google any of this. Using ifdef doesn't work with Unreal header tool. According to this, it should never work, never used in Unreal. According to an Answer Hub post, it's supposed to work. It seems the ifdef aren't currently supported, however, we have a pull request which should fix that. If pound_if defined does get handled correctly, I can always use that. Supposedly it was integrated back in 2014 for if-defs and all that stuff, but we just kind of proved that that doesn't actually work properly. Maybe I would have to do a full clean and rebuild for the thing to actually come through. But it looks like hacking this in here might have let this thing pass through. Which we can keep all of our dirty editor code in one place, so I'm not really too worried about that. If we have to stub out a few functions, because the only things we're gonna have to stub out are things that are in the header that are actually needing to be in the header. Yeah, alright, let's see. Runtime generated generic texture factory is not a class or namespace name. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to actually put all this crap inside of poundif with editor for all this. And let's see what we can do. We might need to change our editor utils CPP file so that the texture factory needs its object initializer at least. It's pretty rainy there. It is not doing anything over here right now. Alright, so we'll try basically defining two constructors for this thing, one of which is just a stub and all that. And we should be okay. Like, we're basically pound defining this thing so that the header tool doesn't freak out on us. And this is going to build everything, isn't it? Oh, man. Well, this is always the thing with fixing build errors, is it takes forever. You're just trying to do something real simple, and it's like, nah, can't do it. So while we're waiting for this build to finish, the next thing that we're going to have to work on is the flow field stuff for water. And I really don't know how I'm going to implement this. So I'm going to have to draw some pictures and think about it. So let's take a look at what we're actually wanting to do. Yeah, that's one reason Karakan and I am in a basement, because it's nice and cool down here, regardless of if it's awful and sunny outside. Alright, so if we've got our... Maybe I should draw a more abstract picture. We've got our A-shaped lake kind of in our box water. You can tell I'm a master at paint.net. So if we've got all this stuff going on, and we've got a waterfall, which is right down here. Like we've basically got an oval input for something, and then we have like a square output. So I guess these are like, so you got like square output geometry, and then we've got like, oh man, that's better. I guess output definition, and this would be our circle input definition. So let's see, this thing is still building. It'll be a little while. So we're gonna have to generate a flow field based on this thing, and we have the shore map and everything. So we've got this whole like shore gradient stuff going on. So I'll kind of draw some basic what the shore definition is going to tell us. Because we're going to need to come up with an algorithm here which is going to generate a static flow field for the water. So if we wanted to naively, like if we're just eyeballing this, where should the water go, right? Like the water should come mainly like this, and it should also kind of go like this, and kind of like that. So the question is, how do we with math figure out that that's the right way for this water to go? And what we're gonna do basically is we're then going to calculate the vector at every one of these pixels, because this will be a big grid, and then we can store that in a texture as like the red, green, and blue component, which will be the actual direction vector of this thing. Which we're also going to have to think about this. We need negative values for these colors, right? Because vectors are in both directions, so we won't be able to save it as like a simple texture or something. It's actually going to be like a linear color or something along those lines, where, you know, like a normal map, it needs negative values and everything else or whatever. Alright, our build failed, and that we had an issue with one of the things, so let's see if we fixed it with our shenaniganry, with our editor utils, putting in this stub constructor, which it was having trouble finding. What is this having trouble with? The end of here? Pound if with editor, pound indent. Return null pointer. That should be that. Was it really this easy to fix all this crap? I'm surprised that there wasn't any sort of forum post on this then, because it's a pretty difficult problem. from a conceptual level, like I've got dependencies and everything, and if all you have to do is inside of your plugin just check if the target type is the editor, then and include different dependencies, and then just stub out a few things. I mean, that's not too bad for having a plugin that could be built, you know, for the editor or for runtime. Just like you wouldn't even need an editor plugin. You could just stub crap out and have all your code inside of one place, which would probably not be best practice, but would be a hell of a lot easier. And yeah, here's just our development game running there. And yeah, it just works. Alright, well, let's switch back to the development editor and build it and make sure it works, because that's a lot simpler than I thought it would be. I thought I'd have to sit here and whine and cry and complain about stuff for 30 minutes. Because I wasn't finding any answers online. Alright, so duplicate factory named. This thing also exists inside of this other thing. Great. Alright, so why don't we call this use stub factory? Well, now we have problems. Basically, we can't have this uFactory thing exist. So is there any way we can kind of swap out this thing? Yeah, it's this poundif with this generated editor utils generated stuff, which is really throwing a wrench into this. Because if this would gotten respected, this poundif with editor for generating this file, then we wouldn't have any problems with it. Well, let's see if we can just delete this editor utils file. Visual Studio is now locked up entirely. It's trying to find this file that it's one of the things I don't like about Visual Studio is that it'll just lock up on stuff that's real easy for you. I wish it had like a timer of like 5 seconds and it just auto fails the task and says do it yourself. Alright, so this is in include, so if I just take this out, throw this like on the desktop real quick, and then do a build. Is it going to remake this editor extensions? Well, this editor utils generated function. And if it does, is it actually going to respect this thing? Yeah, so it made a new editor extensions runtime generated 1, 2, and blah. No, that is incorrect. It's editor utils. It's not even going to generate the H file. All right. So yeah, it's not actually respecting the with editor stuff here. I mean, what are you supposed to do with a header tool that doesn't actually do what the documentation says? Well, let's just Google it real quick. The define doesn't work. Pound define doesn't work. So is this March 2016? After putting in this bug report, I've been given the information that this is a known limitation of Unreal Header Tool. Nothing that is inside of an if-def except with editor or with editor only. Alright, so maybe we need to do if-def as opposed to pound if. We need pound if-def. Well, let's see if def is supported. If pound if isn't supported, maybe pound if def is. Alright, error. U-class inside this preprocessor block will be skipped. Well, that's exactly what we want to happen. I guess not. I guess we need this sort of stuff here. How come this is an error? This is just, yes, that's what I want you to do. I want you to not define this thing. What the hell, Unreal? Alright, this type of construction is not supported with Unreal Header Tool as it does not fully... We plan to deal... Alright, god damn it, like, this is stupid. Like, the macro it does know are hard-coded, CPP with editor only data. We plan to add features which will detect new properties and new functions, which will be skipped inside these blocks. Well, this is frustrating. Well, maybe we can do other shenaniganry. You know, maybe we can actually pound to find out a few things. So we might be able to, basically in the editor, this thing is a U factory. Outside the editor, it's just a U object. And then, you know, we just take the body out of it and leave the guts, something like that. That way we never define U factory, and that might work. U class inside this preprocessor block will be skipped. Alright, so what we want to do is remove this. That way no U classes are skipped. Ugh. Must inherit from U object or U object derived. Where is this thing? U generic texture factory must inherit from U object or U object derived class. Well, it derives from U object. Alright, so maybe we need to do maybe putting it on one line will make it stop complaining. Then the other question is if it even supports if-defs. And, well, I mean the pound else. It may not support that, so we have to do like missing class and class declaration. It can't parse this. It can't fucking parse this. What is this garbage? This is just frustrating. U class inside this preprocessor block will be skipped. I get it, but you know, that's fine. That's what we want to happen. So why is that a freaking error? Like, we understand. That's yes, okay. And we can't do any ridiculous stuff because obviously they have some really crappy parsing code for this stuff that we're not able to actually use. I mean, could we include a different header file which has this stuff as separate definitions? No, of course not. And we can't throw these in a CPP file. I mean, we'll see if, you know, maybe they don't support pound else. New class inside preprocessor block will be skipped. Nope. Well, I guess I called it all too easy earlier. Ah, man. Alright, what are we supposed to do with this? Like, we can stub it out and do some weird crap, but then it fails inside the editor itself because we can't skip the definition of U-factoring. I mean, can we do anything else here? I mean, it's just not even going to detect this, is it? Like, we at least have it so it's not including the header. So we could have like another header file or something like that, so we only include. I mean, that's a really limiting thing to have for the Unreal header tool. I mean, there's not even something there where it's like, just ignore this, you know, ignore the error for this. Like, just. I also don't understand why it's an issue that it's left out. It's like, well, just, that's not an error, that's just a warning message. Alright, so let's switch it back to the development client. And we'll see if this define works. Generic texture platform name, new factory, and curve modular. Yeah, okay, so it just doesn't work. Like, this define just will not work properly. But if we change this to a U object, it would. Well, let's see. Well, I'm trying to think if there's any clever sort of thing we can do. I mean, I could set this up so just this thing gets replaced in the actual text file or something before the build happens. That's stupid and really not helpful. I mean, if we make a new function in here, like make a new Dashkin editor utils editor.h or something. You know, we take everything out of this. We throw our texture factory in here. And basically we just say so we have editor and runtime. So this is the editor version of this file. And then we could just have, you know, the runtime version of this file.